All right, guys, so here we go. So this is the first demo breakdown for the March ACH training that we just had, 2 days ago? So we're going to get into this like normal. If you've watched any of these demo breakdowns, you'll know how they go. Even though we break down the session after the demo, we do that as part of the course. This is just another insight into getting more clarity on where the demo went. Maybe why we chose specific questions, which direction we took the course, all those good things. I'll break that down, guys. And now what's cool is when you get to see these demos again, you sort of reflect on where the session went, the things that were said, the direction where everything went, and be able to see new things. So like normal, with this demo, like them all, I will pause at certain points like I'm doing now, guys. And I will answer and clarify any questions that you guys might have had around, why did the therapist go this way? Why do we choose this question? There's an unconscious moment, all of those sorts of things. Now, I remember this demo quite vividly. This was an incredible session from our fantastic client, which you see Mandy on the screen now, and one of our incredible ACH students as well, Paul, who does one of the best jobs I've seen as far as being brand new to ACH, even though he's done a lot of study with it and things like that. This session was pretty much flawless. So there's not a lot I'm going to break down. I may not need to, what I mean, but I will pause at certain points, point things out. But I'm sure you've heard enough of me talking. Let's get into it and let's see where this goes. This is good having someone help me. I love this. Excellent. I'm going to turn off my video as well. All right.
Hi, Mandy. How are you doing?
Excellent. We can hear each other.
I'm doing well. Thanks, Paul. How are you?
All right.
I'm very well, thank you. So what brings you here today? What's the problem?
So the first thing straight off the bat, as I made abundantly clear in all the trainings, regardless of the client, guys, regardless of their problem, regardless of their presenting symptoms, the content of the session and where it starts and what is being said is irrelevant. The same principles exist regardless whether it's an anxiety session, stop smoking. The reason I'm doing this with my fingers is because we know that's all symptoms. So always, regardless, bar none, always start in the same place, which is what's the problem? What can I help you with? What do you want to talk about today? It doesn't matter how you frame it. What we have to do is start where the client is. And the client's going to tell us about their symptom. And we know from asking about the symptom, they have to go into the unconscious, retrieve information. And we know the hypnotic interview, which is what we're doing now, and the trance exist in the same place. So by doing the hypnotic interview, we're creating those elements of trance as well. So that's what happens really quick. So let's go.
So it's actually, I've thought about this a little bit. This is something I've struggled with for a long time. And it's kind of funny how it works with the whole program we're working with here, but I'm always trying to solve people's problems. Like, I know that that's not the way to act in life, but I do it all the time.
So symptom, nothing wrong with the symptom. We can start there. So one big red flag as to why you know it's a symptom is because the way the information is presented. There's not a lot of thought. There's not a lot of emotion behind it. There's not a lot of thinking. It's just, this is what it is. This is what I experience. And even Mandy backwards rationalizes and says, I've got this symptom and I know that's not what to do, but here I am. And this is the issue that I'm having. Now, as I've always said, if you go ahead and pull out your people-pleasing script or something like that or technique, stop it. You're in the wrong place using the wrong tool at the wrong time. Those things don't exist because we don't know what to fix until we figure out what it is. And by figuring out what it is, it'll start to unravel itself. Okay, and that's the knot. So this is all symptom, guys.
So you find yourself always solving people's problems?
Always trying to solve people's problems.
And all Paul's done is just reflect back. It's called echoing, if you will. It's just reflecting back on the problem. And what this does, which is really cool, is it's almost like asking a client, give me more information. So by reflecting it back, you're showing that you're listening, so there's some sort of rapport. And what will happen, as Mandy did, she's going to start giving us a bit more information. Then Paul will repeat it back. You'll echo it back. Mandy will come out with more information, and we'll eventually start going in the direction of that first or several unconscious moments. So remember, that's all we're looking for here, unconscious moments.
For them.
Okay. What makes that a problem?
So good question. What makes that a problem? How is that a problem? What stops you from being able to do X? How do you feel about X? Give me an example of X, Y, and Z. who, what, when, how, why. If you want to, just be very aware what a why question can do. Any of those questions is fine. And what Paul does really gracefully here and throughout the session, he's not going for a specific question. He's just throwing it out there and noticing the reaction. Because if you spend too long trying to find the right question, you'll find the wrong question every time because now you're thinking about it too much. So, unconscious moment.
Well,
see, there's a little unconscious moment. So what Mandy's doing here, she's trying to retrieve information that was otherwise irrelevant to the context or invisible at the time. So we're asking Mandy, hey, I need more information. Go looking for it. And where she goes looking for it is unconscious. Because when you think about it, guys, where do your words exist before you need them? Where do your memories exist before you have them? Where's your emotion until you need it? It's all unconscious. So we're asking Mandy to consciously go looking for an unconscious process. Thus, the trance begins.
You know, most people have to solve their own problems. You can't solve people's problems for them.
So better information.
Most people have to solve their own problems.
Yes.
Where is that written?
So a bit of a challenge there, which is fine. Unconscious moment. More unconscious moments. Let's pause right there. Everyone see what just happened right there? Good job, Paul. Everyone see the unconscious moment? We're 2 questions in, and already we're getting a bit of trance stuff going on. Now, I want you guys to make a note in your head. This is what trance is. Trance for me is real deep contemplation and thinking. Trance is not eyes closed, drooling on yourself. That's a part of it. But by Paul challenging our client's, Mandy's conclusion, it got Mandy to rethink what was going on. And you could see it. Her voice dropped down a couple of octaves. She sort of went into something. I don't know where that thing was yet, but it's telling us we're 2 questions in and something. Now that's important. I want to make a light on this. When you have an unconscious moment and when you're asking your client to clarify what they mean, you won't have any clue where it's going to go. And it doesn't matter where it goes. All roads lead to Rome. So it's not like you're looking for the right unconscious moment. There's no right or wrong unconscious moment, especially in this context, okay? All we're doing is doing an interview it's almost like fact finding. I want to find out, this is your symptom, what's the real problem? And the only way we can get to that root cause, guys, is by going through those symptoms, by going through those conclusions, breaking those things down, challenging them, asking for more relevant information, which we know is all unconscious. So at the very basic level, you're asking questions. And the response of that is either going to give you a flat out conscious answer, which means that you need to ask another question or go another direction, or it's going to give you an unconscious answer. It's an answer with unconscious moments in it. Once you find that, it almost like it's a sign saying, go this way. And you're going to keep going down that road, wherever it leads you, left, right, up, down, inside out, wherever it goes. And eventually we'll get to this thing we call a root cause. But again, we still don't know what the problem is. We've got a little bit more information, but nothing more than that. Something's already happening. Okay, does that make sense for you guys so far?
Yep.
All right, so I won't interrupt anymore. Good job, Paul. Let's keep going, see where it takes us.
So where are you right now, Mandy? We had a bit of a gap there.
So what Paul's done there is we had an unconscious moment, and now we're going to ask the client, hey, what just happened there? What are you feeling now? This is always a good question. It's a feedback question. You know, if you get stuck for what to ask or you get lost, which sometimes I do as well, I ask the client, where are you now? What are you feeling? Because now this gives me another place to start the conversation, gives me another place to start asking questions in a different direction, whatever it is. You don't always have to remember where you're going. But if you have an unconscious moment, that gap in thinking where there's some contemplation, it's always best to ask your client what's happening now. Because from that, they might say, oh, all of a sudden, I feel really confused and happy at the same time. And we can go down that direction. Okay, so it's getting information about what happened as a result of that unconscious moment. And remember, what made that unconscious moment was the question that Paul just asked. So we're heading in the right direction.
Well, so your question made me think about,
now watch the eyes,
wanting to help people with their problems is okay. I guess it's the approach that I take in helping people with their problems.
Glancing away.
What is the approach?
You can see it there.
I tell people what to do or how to do it, or like my ego gets involved. Like I know their answers. I know how they should fix their problems.
Maybe you do.
More unconscious moments.
I'm sure I have things to offer for sure. But whether what I've experienced or what I know is what's right for them, I think is what I find too that I feel like it pushes people away.
See what's happening here. And again, I can't remember if I jumped on this and explained it, so I'll explain it now. It's sometimes when you have a really nice unconscious moment, it's very hard for a client to give you more information about what they really mean. This is because consciousness is becoming less of the vehicle for communication. Again, that's what we're after. So when your client stumbles over their words and struggles to explain what they really mean, keep going down that road, because eventually they're going to come to a point where there's no conscious thinking left and it's going to be pure unconscious moments. And I think we have a big one from memory. We have a big one coming up very soon. And that's what we're after. What we're essentially saying is make sense consciously of things that are happening unconsciously. And that's very, very hard to do.
It messes with my relationships, I guess.
So
hang on, I'm curious and a bit confused. So you helping people pushes them away?
Maybe I feel like I'm a bit of a know-it-all, or I act like a know-it-all.
Another layer, another knot.
I don't know.
So I don't mean to be like a know-it-all.
I feel like that's how I act sometimes, and it can push people away.
Okay. Are you?
There was another one.
I know a lot.
Everyone just see what happened there? Paul crushing this. Did everyone see the big as another unconscious moment? Now, Paul, let me ask you this. Guys. Did you try and make her breathe out like that?
Not at all. I'm just really curious about the statements that Mandy's making.
Thank you. Can you hear the paradoxes that she's in, the knots that she's caught in?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, there's two big ones is helping people is wrong.
Yeah.
And she's a know-it-all if she helps people.
Yeah. And look at her now. She's still trancing out a little bit now. We're not even doing anything. Watch the eyes go. Imagine Paula said, I want you to solve her problem now. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Do it. Do it now. Hurry up. Something. And we're not even talking. It's not even talking. But being in a frame of just curiosity and just trying to understand what's happening inside of Mandy. Look at her right now. There's something going on. We don't know what that is yet. But we're getting somewhere. So, Paul, let's do this mechanically. What are you curious about? Out of everything she said, what are you curious about?
The contrast between wanting to help people and feeling that it's wrong to help people and feeling that she's being judged for helping people, like a triangle. Yeah, that's the loop she's caught in. And if we take a step back, you've got an incredible therapist like Mandy helping people, knowing that it's probably not the best idea to tell them what to do, but she's doing it anyway. But every time she doesn't tell people what to do, she probably doesn't feel like the therapy is actually working. You can hear the loop that she's caught in, which means that the unconscious mind at some level has locked that off as this is the way it is. And that's the paradox we're going to break. We're going to introduce choice again. Guys, even though because right now, and Mandy, correct me if I'm wrong, do you feel you have choice that where you can help people without telling them what to do? Or do you not feel that that satisfies the session?
Oh, I know I do. Conversational hypnosis is very similar to emotional. I'm sorry, I'm still a little bit.
I know. Good job, Paul.
Loopy here. Motivational interviewing is very similar. And so I've done it before, but I have to really, really, really like be focused to not speak up and interrupt their process.
Excellent. So Paul gives us another layer, but great job so far. I don't want to interrupt him nor Paul keep going because she's heading somewhere anyway. Let's see where this goes.
So, Mandy, where are we going with this? Where are you going with this?
There's another one. And there it is again. Don't you love those unconscious moments, guys? Watch the eyes. Watch the eyes, guys. And we're what? 5 questions in, and I've interrupted twice.
We have a pure, unconscious moment. So, Paul, when that starts to die off, if it does, we go back to...
So I'll make a comment. So while a client's going through that, guys, eyes open or closed, irrelevant. Forget that bullshit about eyes have to be closed and deeper. We know that's not the case. When a client's having that moment, just wait. Don't interrupt it. Don't go, oi, answer me, because the answers are irrelevant at that point. The reaction of what the answer should be is way more important, okay? So in that case, eyes open or closed, you just want to sit there. Let them have it. Later on, when we talk about process instructions, which I believe we started on day 2, you can include those things. So a process instruction, if we're going to use one, at that point, I would have just said, there you go. Good job. Would just reinforce that. But I wouldn't have said, hey, answer this, answer that. Logic, she doesn't need it. She's going somewhere. So let her have that moment. That's really important because that's where the resource, the breakthrough, the aha moment there, my life has changed. That's where that comes from. It doesn't come from a place of conscious thinking. It comes from pure unconsciousness where there's no more loop going around. We've essentially, with 5 questions, broken down that knot. We've collapsed that knot and allowed something new to emerge, okay? That's that natural emerging phenomena, the unconscious phenomena, and it comes out very soon. Let's keep going.
To what's happening now.
You want to get some feedback because she snapped out of it?
I've just been quiet to let her process.
Look at that one question, Paul. Look what you've just done to her. And guys, Mandy, this is therapy.
Where are you right now, Mandy?
I know that I've struggled with feeling like I'm not heard, and
Listen, what just happened there? And I'm pretty sure I point this out as well. Where did we start? I feel like a bit of a know-it-all telling people what to do, which is one layer. The next layer on that now it's I feel like I'm not being heard. So let's take a back step here. Let's really analyze this, create a caricature of what this is. This should relate and it should be very obvious. I tell people what to do, from the goodness of our heart, but I feel like I'm not being heard. So I'm trying to tell people what to do so I am heard. Can everyone hopefully see that paradox, that conclusion, that knot she's caught in? This is what I love about this style of therapy. It's understanding how a client thinks, where their mindset is, what's happening inside their head. And we're just trying to find what's that paradox. Now, we don't have to do anything with the paradox. Just the pure understanding and insight into what that paradox is starts to collapse it. So everyone thinks, okay, I found the root cause. I've got to give a visualization. I've got to tell them to hug their inner child. No, you don't need to do any of that stuff. And you'll interrupt that stuff, the good stuff happening, by including some made up fantasy imagination bullshit that a lot of people do, which ruins the unconscious moment. You don't want to tell a client what to do with that moment. You just want to have them experience that moment and sit in it. And whatever they want to do with it, they will do with it. That's where we're headed with this.
Of course, there's all the past, going into your childhood stuff and not feeling heard. And
again, notice what happened just there. She said something about, I feel like I'm not being heard. Then there was a bit of consciousness. And then she said, I feel like I'm not being heard again. And the way she said it, you just rewind a couple of seconds. She said it, then she looked off again, paused, thought about it. So that tells me, aha, I know where to go with this. That theme has come up twice now. This must be important because the unconscious mind has said it to me twice. Remember, the unconscious mind is not random. It's very precise. Now, if I skip that and go in another direction, the unconscious mind will eventually say, well, you know what, Scott? I've given you all these clues. You're not listening to me. You figure it out. You figure it out if you're such a know-it-all. So always listen. The way a client says something, the quality of information, the unconscious moment that encapsulates that thing being said, the way they look, the coloration of their face, the tone, all of these are a part of unconscious moments.
I don't know if there's a part of me that's constantly trying to get to be heard.
There it is again.
I guess it kind of went real quick for a minute there.
What has she just told us, Paul? She said it 3 times.
Yeah, she's not heard. She feels like she's not heard. And that was going to be my next question.
Go for it.
Mandy, what makes you feel that you're not heard?
I don't think I still feel that way in adulthood, but I do feel like that's something that comes up for me from my childhood.
Okay. What just happened there? Mini regression. Now, did we cause this thing to happen? No. Did we steer the session towards a regression? Hell no. I don't even teach you guys regressions because they're not necessary. What I do teach you, which gives you all the freedom in the world, is once a client comes up with a theme for their therapy, parts, a regression, visualization, I feel something, I can see something, I sense something, whatever they give you as part as this is the theme for the therapy, you utilize. So you don't have to know a regression to be able to do a regression. You don't have to know parts integration to be able to do parts integration. A client will tell you the way they want to do therapy, and they'll say this indirectly. You don't even have to know what it's called, and you just use it. You jump on it, and I hope Paul does this. I can't remember if we do. I'm pretty sure we do. You use that and give that back, and it's if you're doing it's the same as if you were doing a regression without doing it, but you'll get the same end result. That's the genius of this. Okay, quick to the point, utilization, laziness. We don't have to know a thing, guys, except just roll with the conversation.
So it's something that comes up from your childhood.
There it is,
yes.
using it.
What comes up?
Now, isn't that the same as asking a client with a classical regression, what scene do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? Same thing, but Paul did it in one question. What's coming up for you? Mandy's going to tell us. I don't have to tell her to look at the scene. She's already got it in her head. She's already sensing it. I don't have to tell her what to do with it. She's already doing it without me giving her the instructions. Again, let the client figure this out. Your job is just to put them in like a box and say, you stay in this box. All the tools you need are in this box. Once you've cleared this out, I'll let you out of the box. If Mandy tries to escape, no, pull her back into the box. And the box is the parameters of the unconscious moments. That box is just pure unconscious moments. Get in the box, Mandy. Stay in that unconscious moment. Only come out when you're finished. Okay, that's sort of what we're doing, guys.
The feeling of not being heard.
There it is again. So we know that's an important layer. Here we go again. Something new is coming up.
Not being recognized maybe is a better word, or acknowledged.
Difference. Not being recognized, acknowledge. Now rewind back a couple of seconds, guys, and ask yourself, out of those 2 statements, which one had more juicy stuff to it? Which one sounded way more important? And I know I bring this up as a little lesson here because that word, the one that we end up picking, becomes the entire therapy. And again, it's why it's one of my favorite demos. Watch what happens.
Okay, so not being recognized,
that's
not being acknowledged as a child, but you're a grown-up now, Mandy.
Right.
So what makes that a problem?
So we could have taken this in any way. Paul said a great question, but we could have just jumped on the word acknowledge and we could have said something like, okay, Mandy, what are you trying to be acknowledged for? Same question. What are people not acknowledging you for? That you know acknowledgement is important. Same thing. It's irrelevant what we say, but we pounce on this acknowledgement thing. That becomes the therapeutic tool, as you guys, if you were there, you would have seen, but if you haven't seen it, this becomes abundantly obvious. Look at that. So by feeding back a very unconscious need, motivation, payoff, the acknowledgement is the payoff. By saying, hey, unconscious mind, I heard you say the word acknowledge, and I know you meant that. Here's the word back. The unconscious mind will give it back to me. I'll give it back to him. It's like playing like a game of football where you're throwing the ball, catch it. I don't know what type of football that is, NFL, I guess. But hopefully you guys get my point. This becomes the therapeutic breakthrough. Everything else is irrelevant. Keep watching, Mandy.
Maybe I need to acknowledge myself in a better way.
Now
you need to.
Very slight. Did you see her face? And I'm sure you've seen this face, Paul. You may have done it as well. You say something to yourself and it makes sense. You might say, yeah, that's what I need to do with my life. Yeah, And you can tell you're acknowledging that in yourself. That's what Mandy just did with her face. Just rewind a couple of seconds. And it's sort of like saying the unconscious mind is now feeding back this information saying, Mandy, you need to acknowledge yourself. That's what we need to do. And you see that she's almost agreeing with herself. That's part of it.
Acknowledge yourself in a better way.
Look what happened when Paul said that back to her. Swaying, starting to happen,
Yes.
looking off.
So what's stopping you?
So Paul asked, what's stopping you? But we could have just repeated that. And that's where we get to. We could have just said, you know, what's stopping you from acknowledging where Paul went? But we could have just backtracked and said, okay, so acknowledging yourself. Mandy would have said, yeah. So acknowledging yourself. And that would have been my only sentence. Regardless, Paul went a good way anyway, but I could have just given that back because that has now become the natural unconscious emerging phenomena. That's become the resource. It's going to feed it back. So have this, have this, have this, have this over and over, and just keep feeding her back that statement because that's what the unconscious mind needs to hear. Now keep watching. Look at the moments, starting to sway, looking off.
Now, Paul, I want you to repeat that resource.
Did we tell Mandy to close her eyes?
Okay.
No.
What's stopping you?
Before that. And she said, I need to acknowledge myself more.
So even
What did I say? Say it again for me.
Yep. I'll show you exactly what I mean. That's it, Mandy. Go ahead, just acknowledge. Acknowledge more.
I don't know what that means. It means nothing to me. Grammatically, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even fit the content or context of the session. It's missing parts of the instruction, the process instruction, the information. I'm just saying acknowledge because she knows what it means. The unconscious mind knows what to do with it. I don't have to know. And quite frankly, it has no meaning for me. It has no meaning for anybody else watching this. But it means the world to Mandy because it has come from pure unconscious moments. And watch what we do with this word.
There you go.
Becomes therapeutic.
Do it properly. There you go.
Process instructions.
Acknowledging away.
So word again.
All of it, though.
Now, this sort of becomes a trance of acknowledgement. Very simple. How can you prepare this, guys? You can't have an acknowledgement script or a technique because you didn't know that was going to come up. You can't stop halfway through the session and say, okay, give me 2 hours, I'm going to write this out in a script. No, because that's all symptoms. This is unconscious. Now, what did this have to do with where the session first started? If we take a back step and look at it, the characters there, we can see the moving parts. But getting deep down, there's nowhere in the world we could have picked this as where it will go. And therapeutically, having one word that changes the whole not an unconscious environment that Mandy was living in, it's incredibly powerful. And you're going to say one word.
There you go. More and more.
They're just process instructions.
And don't you dare rush this.
Basically, I'm saying to a client, keep acknowledging.
There you go. More acknowledge.
So it's just a big unconscious moment.
Good job. Take your
Every
time.
time you breathe out, that's just another unconscious moment. The emotion comes out.
Brilliant job. Just take a quick second.
Excellent job.
So when a client comes out of something like this, guys, just always give them a couple of seconds just to sort of come back to life, so to speak, before you start berating them with questions. Because they're still going to be tranced out anyway. Okay?
So, Paul, sorry to interrupt. I want you to ask her when she's sort of settled down a bit. Ask her what just happened, and then we'll go from
get
there.
some feedback of the result.
So, Mandy, what just happened?
Now, think of the cheekiness of that.
I don't know really.
Of that question as well, guys. We're now saying you're in an unconscious moment. Now, explain to me the unconscious moment. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to keep them in those parameters of the trance. It's not going to make them too conscious or too logic, which is good. But by explaining the unconscious moment, another one will arise and more information will come out. Okay? Because we're going down the direction. We're utilizing everything that moment has given us.
Honestly.
So this is a good time, guys, just for a bit of practice. You know, this is where you really want to acknowledge your client, to use the metaphor, and say, you know, you did a great job. Well done.
I'm so impressed. You did a brilliant job there, man.
Always a bit of self-esteem, guys, at that point. It's always really nice. You don't have to go overboard and say, you're brilliant, you're wonderful. Mandy knows this, your clients know that, but just a bit of acknowledgement is sort of through inference saying to the unconscious mind, whatever you did there was perfect. I want to do that again. If you think it's necessary, let's have another big unconscious moment. Give me another payoff. Give me another resource, whatever you want to do. I'm acknowledging the unconscious mind indirectly by giving some self-esteem.
Andy, you did a fantastic job.
See, the funny thing is, she doesn't even know what she did, but it feels better.
Yeah. That smile, where did that smile come from?
It feels better. It feels better.
It feels better. What feels better?
Knowing that I deserve to acknowledge what I have done.
You deserve to acknowledge yourself.
Yeah.
For the things that you've achieved.
Yes.
Repeat that.
You deserve to acknowledge yourself for the things that you, Mandy, have achieved.
So that's the resource. And watch back into the trance.
Again, Paul.
It's an unconscious resource.
You deserve to acknowledge yourself, Mandy, for the things that you've achieved.
Think about where it started. I think I need to acknowledge myself more. Now I deserve to acknowledge myself more. It started to make the connection. It's a big difference between needing to and feeling like you deserve to, and you just have experienced that acknowledgement and it does feel nice. Now we're going to feed that back into it because something else will probably come up. Keep feeding back that resource.
That's it.
Process instructions.
Acknowledge yourself.
So there we go. See, it's like a power word.
And again. That's it. Yeah. Fabulous. That's it. Acknowledge yourself, Mandy, for the things that you've achieved. There you go.
And this is the same trance. The only difference is eyes are open.
And there's more I can achieve. I'm capable of achieving more.
So that's the next resource that has popped up. Okay, see how awesome this is? We're giving Mandy so many resources that's connecting so deeply unconsciously for her. It's just starting to create one big tool, one big workaround thing. So whenever she feels the bad thing again, if she ever does, this thing will come flooding back. And this becomes the way that Mandy starts to view the world now, her business, her career, whatever she's using this for.
There's more you can achieve. There's more you can achieve.
So just repeating back that positive resource. Be the same thing if her eyes were closed.
That's it. Yeah, that's great. There's
and the
more.
Smiles when it starts to connect.
That
it starts to
Mandy
make sense.
Can achieve.
Yeah.
There's a trance happening again.
You know it.
Now, Paul, I want you to ask her what's happening now.
I was about to do that.
Man, I'm all over the place. Doing a good job.
Mandy, what's happening now?
I've struggled over the last few years with feeling like I don't finish things.
The next
just
layer.
Recently,
see how conscious this
and
is?
I started to take on kind of this attitude like,
so this is just a backwards rationalization. So clients will do this. They'll have this little mini breakthrough, which is all we're after right now. And then consciousness will come back because it wants to try and explain what this whole thing is. And our job is to get consciousness to an extent, you know, the logic out the way, and we're going to bring back that resource. And that resource is now going to connect to this logic. Then another piece of logic might come out later. We're going to connect to that one. And we're just constantly putting this piece of puzzle together. So you see the quality and information here is just all the backwards rationalization. This is why I feel like this. This is because of this. This is how this is. there's no thinking involved. It's quick. There's no it almost sounds like it's rehearsed because she's probably said it to herself a million times. But this has nothing to do with what she just went through a couple of seconds ago. So you don't want to get derailed by that. You almost can ignore this stuff.
Oh, that's just who I am. I just don't finish things. I get bored. I move on. I don't care. And it worries me because there are things I want to accomplish. And then recently, I recognized that there was a time I accomplished things, that I really persevered and accomplished things. And I really started kind of recognizing that within myself more recently, like reminding myself of those times that I've accomplished things, that I persevered and I didn't give up and I just kept trying and I just kept pushing. Being here was a lot of work. It took a lot to get me to this class today.
No, it didn't.
But I didn't give up. I wanted to be here. This is something I very much wanted to do. And so I just persisted through all the little speed bumps that got me here. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to be here. So I just feel better, like I'm going to be able to accomplish things. I just need to keep reminding myself that I am capable of persevering and just not give up, just keep going.
So you see now that's a mixture of a lot of backwards rationalization, but she's also telling us that I've connected the resource. So I've got to be very quick to listen to that thing. But regardless, we would have picked it up later anyway. But again, we're still heading in the right direction.
I'm a little bit confused here, Mandy, because we've just been chatting about your ability to achieve things and accomplish things, and yet you just said that you don't finish stuff.
So that's a nice paradox we found.
Yeah. Well, that's something I'm working on changing because I've had fear that I'm not going to be able to accomplish some of the goals I've set for myself.
What fear?
Another moment. See the difference?
I know.
You said there was a fear. So
now we're breaking down this one. Just by asking about it, we're breaking it down. We're challenging Mandy's reality.
I've started life coaching business before and not followed through. And I really, really, really want to do it this time, especially with the conversational hypnosis and the possibilities of using conversational hypnosis to help people.
Okay.
So the fear is that I won't follow through.
Okay, so you've got a fear that you won't follow through, but I'm curious, Mandy, what's stopping you from following through?
Good question. And there we have it.
Self-confidence, I guess.
Self-confidence.
That's not it.
Yeah.
So self-confidence is the fear that's stopping you from following through.
So remember, the self-confidence is the conclusion. The fear thing's a little bit more important, but this is what it is. That's just her conclusion again. It's whatever comes out of this is more important. I think she actually transfers right out with this one. But again, it's the same principles being repeated, guys. Find the knot, find the conclusion, question, challenge the conclusion, wait for the unconscious moment, resource pops out, and we ask if there is anything else you want to work on. By asking the question, what's happening now? Is there anything else? We're just repeating the same principle.
Okay.
That's the unconscious mind process.
Self-confidence is the fear that's stopping you from following through. Take your time.
So I want you to use some process instructions now, Paul. Things like, there you go.
Yeah.
We did bring them up here.
That's it.
Just getting
Right
close to it.
That's it. There you go. Good. You're doing really well, Mandy.
And again, those process instructions are purely for the unconscious mind. We're saying, yes, do more of that. Keep going. You're doing a good job. Unconscious mind, I notice you. I see you, whatever it is. We're just ratifying that. We're growing that experience. Because from that experience, the resource pops out. There's too much consciousness, the resource gets stuck. It's like having a lid on a jar. Got to take the lid off first.
That's it. Take your time. There you go.
And again, I want to point out, there's no difference between before where the eyes don't close and where the eyes are closed. There's no different level of trance there. All eyes closed, just gets rid of distraction. So she was still processing the same amount with the eyes open as she was with the eyes closed. It's no different. So I don't want you guys to think that we're using process instructions to get the eyes closed. No, we're using process instructions to grow the moment. If the moment means they do close their eyes, so be it. If the moment means they don't close their eyes, if the moment means they burst out laughing or start crying, so be it. So it's not wondering how do I use a process instruction to what end? It's how much can I keep using it so that whole feeling, the whole thing, the whole time they're in this thing, it just gets enveloped by a big unconscious moment. Okay, so there's no to what end, it's how big can I grow this moment.
So repeat what you said before, Paul.
So I'm just telling Paul, whatever you said before.
Self-confidence.
Good.
Is the fear that's stopping you from following through.
Now listen to that. We're giving her back a negative, but why will it have a positive result? It's because that's what the knot is. So by repeating back that knot, it starts to collapse it. And as we're collapsing it now, a new thing's going to pop up. The realization of what Mandy really meant to say, other than what she did, starts to come out.
So, Paul, you could shorten that with things like, there you go, follow through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, accomplish and follow through. That's it. There you go.
Then that becomes therapeutic. It's like saying the word acknowledge. Follow through and acknowledge are her therapeutic instructions.
Less words.
That's it.
So the reason we want to go for less words now, guys, which is ironic coming from me because I talk so much, less words means you won't interrupt the unconscious moment. You won't interrupt the trance. If you start saying too much, you'll interrupt it, and there's no point in that.
Really close now. You've got this, Mandy.
Less words.
So you don't need to talk. Just little, short, sharp.
Repeat, follow through. That's the therapy.
Yeah. Follow through.
You know, more the classical instructions. There you go. You're a wonderful person, feeling strong now with every breath going deeper. You're powerful. You're enough. Forget all that stuff. It's too much talking. And now you're telling a client what you want them to feel. What I would rather do is find the word that has a lot of meaning to them unconsciously and just give them that back. And we just keep repeating this. You'll hear Paul, especially here, to say follow through multiple times. That's the therapeutic instruction. I don't need to know what she's going to do with it.
Through.
Just have to keep saying it. You might say this 1,000 times. Your client will love it. It'd be boring for you.
Through. Follow through.
And that's it. Simple as that, guys.
There you go.
Whatever that means to Mandy, that's all that matters. Doesn't have to make sense to you.
That's it. Accomplish.
Nice. So pulling that other resource from before, this resource together.
Good.
Really powerful.
Keep repeating that.
Accomplish. Accomplish. There you go.
So we had acknowledge, accomplish, follow through. All those three together.
Accomplish.
See Paul softening his voice, which is a good thing as well. Good tone. You don't need to touch your client. You don't need to lift the hand up and do the balloon thing. None. This is it right here.
Accomplish.
So when she comes out, Paul, you know what to ask her.
Yeah.
Just give her a couple of, she might keep going. Just let her sit in silence for a while. So remember, silence is therapeutic, guys, as well. So everybody watching, this is the therapy. And we're not even at that part yet, but here it is. Now, what's important here, we only set up this demo. It was really the first almost full demo that we did, but we only had instructed Paul just to do the hypnotic interview. But the therapy happened to work out by itself. So what's crazy is when you just concentrate on the hypnotic interview, which we do at the start, the therapy and trance take care of itself. Sometimes if you're trying too hard to get to a place like this that is therapeutic, you'll push the session too much. That's why I harp on so much about how important the interview is. Just concentrate on that. This will sort itself out. This will come up when it needs to come up. But if you go for this with using the hypnotic interview, you'll miss it every time. So don't worry about what happens after the interview. Just do the interview and this will take care of itself. This will show up organically if the interview is done properly. And it's our job, well, our clients like this, just to monitor them. See, she's doing something in there.
Absolutely.
So we're looking for movement, eye fluttering, breathing, complete stillness. These are just things to let us know that's still going on. That we're heading in the, or we are in the right direction. We're pretty much at the destination. We've only asked a dozen questions. And we got 2 trances. This would be the equivalent of 2 major sessions. We've done it in one. You can tell that was a big one, a big shift.
What was that, Mandy? What happened there?
So just give her a couple of seconds just to sort of regroup.
Yeah, I feel better.
You feel better?
I do.
You did a fabulous job.
So good self-esteem. She has no idea what's going on. We won't do any testing yet, Paul, because that's day 2.
Yeah, okay.
But we'll wait till she comes out of it a bit. We can ask her a couple of things, but hopefully everyone can see the difference just in the way Mandy looks. You know what? Let's do a little bit of testing, Paul. I don't want to leave this open. We'll just do a quick one. I just want you to ask her about the old problem with the least amount of words and see what happens. So what we're going to do now is, now we've collapsed those 2 big things and the shifts come through, the processing, the emerging phenomena. More will come later, which you guys are well aware of. We'll talk about that later. We're saying that as you feel in this state, so to speak, think about the old problem. We're going to loop it back. We're going to close that new knot, that new loop. We're going to close that back. Okay?
What about the old problem?
Now, what's funny is, again, I've talked about this. If you can't remember all the details of the problem, just say, you know, how do you feel about all of that? That's what I used to say because I'd forget where we started and the stuff we talked about. You don't have to get specific.
What a problem.
What a difference.
There we go. Don't tell me. You came to see me about a problem.
Yeah.
Look at her face now.
Yeah, I need balance. I found I need to let it be. I'm okay.
Bingo.
I'm okay.
And there we have it. That's the natural emerging phenomena. I need balance. Now, what the hell does balance have to do with acknowledgement? And the other 2 things, I can't even remember what they were. But out of that, it's like saying unconscious mind has said, okay, after pushing these things all together, figuring out the best configuration, as I talk about trying on a shirt, you know, figuring out which shirt looks best, the product of that, the result of that thing being squished together is I need balance. Now think about the trajectory of her entire life, that word balance. Now this becomes the new resource she lives her life through.
Good job.
What was the resource she found? Balance. Mm-hmm. Did you even say that word to her? No.
Not mention that word once.
And you can tell it's an unconscious thing, because when you feed it back to your client, you can use that if you wanted to. There's no real point because it's over now. You'll see that get that like that self-acknowledgement, to use her word, of like, yeah, that's what I need. That's it. It's like a client agreeing with themselves again.
It doesn't have to be one way or the other. I'm okay.
There it is again.
Absolutely. You have just done an amazing job there, Mandy. Well done.
Can everyone hear?
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we've got choice. Our client has choice. It can be one way or the other. Mm. Congratulations, 100%. Mandy and Paul. Man.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Scott.
And there we have. That's the first demo. Incredible demo. Simple, elegant, but so much happening. Okay. The same principles we use in this one, we'll use the same principles in the next demo. But just realize every demo will look different. Every client is different. They'll have different resources, different processing. The trance will be different. Everything remains different. So we can't take what we learned from Mandy's session as far as the outcome into the next session. We couldn't say, oh, well, I said the word acknowledge to my client. That went really deep. But hang on, I used the word acknowledge for my next client and nothing happened. That's because it's Mandy's words. It's Mandy's experience. It's Mandy's resources. The next client, as you know, we start from scratch again. What's the problem? And we repeat those same principles. And regardless of what the trance looks like, we end up going to the same place. Okay. So that's it for this demo, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you got any questions, please ask in the group, but I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.